Niv Mizzet Parun versus Griselbrand. Yeah, very worrying. We'll go for a keep on that. We can have a look at what our opponent's got with Gitaxian Probe. Usually they just want to ramp like crazy into Griselbrand and then draw a fresh hand straight away. We can save our life and go for a Gitaxian Probe, paid for. And then we'll keep all this revealed. Yeah, Toxic Deluge, Mox Diamond, Khan. I don't know what that land does. Sacrifice to add. Well, we can pass priority to our opponent anyway, and we'll have a look at that. Yeah, Charcoal Diamond, some ramp there. Damnation, so they have a couple of board wipes in hand. We don't play many creatures, but we'd rather keep Niv Mizzet in play if we ever manage to get him out into play. And they've ditched the Evan Stronghold, seen the Charcoal, the Mox, and the Swamp. They've obviously drawn into a new card after that. We will go for the Bloodstained Mire, and if we want to counter something, which we most likely will, then we can Arcane Denial, go for a Volcanic Island off of the Bloodstained Mire. Griselbrand, 8 mana for a 7/7 flyer lifelink, and then you can pay 7 life to draw 7 cards. A very, very good commander. And not entirely sure that it should be unbanned, but our opponent doesn't get into anything, so that is fine with us. We can shock in a tapped Shockland. Shock in a tapped Shockland, that doesn't make sense, does it? Why don't we go for... See, I don't really want them to get in that Khan. I'd love to get Rhystic Study down, but if they get another land, then they can go for Khan. So I think I'm just going to play around countering that, to be honest. Khan, Scion of Urza, is 1/1. Reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one of them, put it into your hand and exile the other with a silver counter on it. And then for -1 you can put the silver counter card into your hand, and we will not allow that to happen. And we can draw into some extra cards. People don't often scoop to an Arcane Denial because they get to draw a couple of cards off of it. And of course we get to draw one from it as well. And there we go, triggers on the stack. We get to draw a card, and our opponent gets to draw up to 2, which I'm sure they will draw both. And now all we know about is the 2 board wipes that they have in hand. And I'm afraid we have to... I'm going to try and play out as many islands as possible because we do have Vidalcan Shackles in the deck. Might have been worth a disallow last turn, actually. I was trying to save the disallow. Just in case we draw into lots of counter spells, we could disallow the pay 7 life and draw 7 cards. But then again, they could just do it again, but it would cost them an extra 7 life in all fairness. What is that? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have to counter that, unfortunately, because that will be Griselbrand next turn. So that should slow them down considerably, hopefully. Of course, depends on what else they've gotten into. We're most likely going to be Rhystic Studying next turn. And after we have decided what we're doing, well, I can just go over my commander now. It's a 5/5 flyer for 6 mana, can't be countered. And whenever anyone plays an instant or sorcery, we draw a card. And whenever we draw a card, we get to ping something for 1. Our opponent's taking their time, so if you want to read it, there you are. You can just pause it there for a second. And we get through onto our turn. We go for Chandra. That is interesting. Chandra. I think I'd just rather get the Rhystic Study out, to be honest. Actually, could we go for Chromatic Lantern? That would be 3. And then tap the Chromatic Lantern, a land, and I think we can do that. Yep. Go for Chromatic Lantern into Rhystic Study. Make sure that we tap everything down there. Yep, we get Ristic Study into play, and hopefully our opponent doesn't ramp like mad and manage to get into Griselbrand, because we'd really like to get some counter magic before that happens. They go for Dark Confident, and nope, they pay the tax on Ristic Study, which is exactly what you should do. If you've never played against a Ristic Study before, you always pay the tax on it. Mana Drain is superb for us, so we'll just go for that. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that we could have. We have 4, 5, 6. Yeah, we're a land off. That would be really nice to get into our commander and then a mana drain, but unfortunately won't be able to do it, so we will just go for this, actually. Just in case they go for one of our non-basics, I'll just hold up a couple of basic lands. And I would like to deal 4 damage to a target creature, which will be Dark Confident in this case. And then we'll pass through to our opponent. We really want to keep them off any card draw. And Dark Confidant is exactly that. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Put it into your hand. You lose life equal to the CMC. Ooh, Sol Ring. Yeah, that's an always yes and always yield. Will Sol Ring do it for them? I think I don't mind them getting Sol Ring and then just countering the Griselbrand next turn. Unless they get into something frightening here. Ether Flux Reservoir. Ugh. Yeah, if they gain a lot of life from Griselbrand, then that is a problem, but I think I'd rather just counter the Griselbrand itself, to be honest. So let's just go for our commander and see if they want to wipe that off the board. And we'll go for Desolate Lighthouse, and yeah, we'll go for some ramp with Chandra. And then that's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now at least we get a card draw off the mana drain if they decide to go for that. Worst case scenario, we just Desolate Lighthouse to draw a card and discard a card. But managing to slow down Griselbrand nicely thus far. And hopefully we get quite a bit of card draw from Niv Mizzet now. Probably going for a Toxic Deluge here, or a Damnation. No, might just be going straight into Griselbrand. And see if they pay the tax. They most likely will because they have an untapped land. And just deciding on what they want to do. Maybe they have a 1-mana spell in hand. Yeah, I just turned off auto yields because I was worried that I was F6'd for a second there. Don't want to yield to that. We can yield to the Ether Flux Reservoir though, so that basically counteracts that. And then we'll go for blue, blue. And I think we can just Mana Leak that, while Mana Leak is still a relevant card. And we of course can trip off of that. And Pyroclasm isn't going to do a whole lot for us. That might be discard fodder with Jace Vryn's Prodigy or something like that. They might go for a board wipe next turn. We know that they have 2 in hand. So we can counter one of them and then force them to use the other one. That would feel really bad. I'll try and get into another counter spell now. Well, why don't we see if we can put something on top of our library that would be relevant with Chandra. I think we can auto-yield to this. There's sometimes you don't want... In fact, no, I'm not going to risk it. There's sometimes you don't want to auto-yield to that ping trigger. Sometimes you want to do something... Ooh, Vidalcan Shackles is really nice then. So we go top and top. We draw into the mountain. And then we exile with Chandra. You may cast that card. If you don't, yeah, okay. So we exile Vidalcan Shackles. We can cast it for 1, 2, and 3. Unfortunately, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're a couple of islands short of being able to take control of Griselbrand. I might just Pyroclasm in order to get a card draw, because it's not going to be relevant this game, I don't think. Yeah, I think I might just do that. We'll go 1 and 2. Oh no, we need red, of course. Literally just doing that for the card draw. Doesn't matter if some damage is dealt to Niv Mizzet, I hope. Don't think they have a deal 3 damage Black Lightning Bolt. We do clear a Wasteland off the top though. And if they do wipe the board, I think we still just save the mana drain for Griselbrand. That will cost 10 mana for them. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Yeah, they're only 1 land off of recasting Griselbrand. But I've got a sneaking suspicion that they will go for a board wipe here. Yep, they go for Damnation. See what we draw into. We just have to hope it's a counter. Mission Briefing is a counter. Actually, it isn't. Well, I think we can use Mana Drain. Let's see if they... Yeah, always yes and always yield, because I F6'd before, or I was worried about F6ing. And then they gain life off of that. They can go for Toxic Deluge. I think I want to counter that, and then we can Mission Briefing next turn. And we get into another island, which is really good with the Vidalcan Shackles in play. And we do, of course, get 4 mana next turn. I don't know how relevant that's going to be. And now we can get rid of, I guess this is Toxic Deluge. They'll have to take 5 for this. Yep. Unfortunately, unless we get into a Spell Pierce, we don't have Force Spike, or oh, Force Spike wouldn't be relevant anyway. They do still have a mana. Although they probably pay for the Rhystic Study, so actually it might be relevant. It doesn't matter anyway, because we don't have Force Spike in the deck. We do have Spell Pierce though. But I don't think we're going to draw into that. We do not, because they pay for the Rhystic Study trigger, as they should. And we let them blow up our commander, and that will now cost us 8 to get back out. So what we can do, have to count up the mana that we have. That will pay for the commander tax, and then we'll have 2 left over. If our opponent decides that they want to give us priority. And we now have 5 and 6, so we need another island, and then we can start taking Griselbrand with the Vidalcan Shackles. Let's have a look here. If we want to leave up 4 mana for Mission Briefing into Mana Drain, so that will be 4, and then 5 and 6. I'm just deciding if I want to... No, we need all the coloured mana we can get, so I'm actually going to plus Chandra for the 2 red. And then red again. 1, 2, and 3. We will end up wasting 2 mana, unfortunately, but it does mean that we can get out Niv Mizzet Parun quite easily, quite comfortably. Yeah, I think we just pass like that. And we can hold up counter magic. We have a counter flux, which can either, for an additional mana, counter everything on the stack. Not usually relevant in 1v1. It's just a counter spell that can't be countered. And we also have Miscalculation, which is counter a spell unless its controller pays 2. We can also cycle it. I didn't want to cycle it just in case, because our opponent is likely going to have to almost tap out for Griselbrand. 2, 4... we'll just let them get out the Star Compass, and then we'll start worrying about how much mana they have. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But they can, of course, use the Mishra's Workshop to pump 3 mana into an artifact. We run that in our Duretti Scrap Savant deck. Very good card. But I think we're going to manage to keep our opponent under control here. This really what you want to do is get out of Niv Mizzet and try and keep it out as best you can, and then counter everything that your opponent does. And as you counter everything, you are in fact gaining card advantage as well. So them just doing that and passing is fine with us. They might be trying to force us to counter things on our turn. We get into that last island, so that switches on Vedalken Shackles as far as I'm concerned. We will plus Chandra and see what we've got on the top. And we have a mountain on top, so that is good to clear away. Quite lucky on our part. Oftentimes with this deck you will get rid of a counter spell with Chandra, and that doesn't feel very good. But yeah, fine, we will just keep on dragging the game out like this, exactly what Control Spellslinger wants to do. And see if we can counter yet another Griselbrand. I don't normally like... I won't say I don't like it, I do enjoy playing this deck, but I do appreciate how it feels for your opponent, just getting everything countered, but I mean, I can't say I feel too guilty against Griselbrand, because it's an incredibly powerful card, and it can just get them free card draw. We will... Could we miscalculation? No. I think I'll just counter... No, mission briefing that, because it will cost 4 mana in total. And that is the most productive use of our mana. Mission briefing is a Snapcaster Mage on an instant, but we get to look at the top 2 cards of our library and have a look and see if anything there is worth throwing away. Really good in graveyard-based decks like Sidisi, Brood Tyrant, things like that, but it's good in control builds as well, because you can filter the card draw a little bit once you cast it. You can even use it to throw a counter spell into the graveyard off the top. Yeah, why don't we go for... We can put both of them on top, actually. I don't mind Field of Ruin because it gets rid of the Mishra's Workshop or the Urborg. And Dak Vaden just steals their Sol Ring, so we'll go for Mana Drain. And that, of course, gives Mana Drain flashback. We target the Ugin. And we get 8 mana at the start of our next turn. At the start of our next upkeep, that is. Upkeep? No, it's main phase, isn't it? It's main phase. Otherwise we won't be able to cast anything with it. So the only counter spell really that we have now is Counter Flux. I don't know how useful the miscalculation is going to be. We only have 1 card left in hand and we don't know what that is. Don't know if our opponent is... Oh, whoa. Okay. Okay, our opponent is chatting away to us. We didn't see any of that. Let's have a look at what our opponent has to say. This is why counter... Okay. I have a feeling that we're seeing some salt here. Yeah, okay, I'm not going to read through all that. I will let you be the judges of this individual. I have a feeling that as I scan through it, yeah, they're not being the kindest of people, are they? Why don't we just... This is a really petty thing to do on my part, but why don't we just leave that there and show everyone what a nice individual our opponent can be. Yeah, so Griselbrand, really powerful commander. If you can manage to get it out into play, then you can just pretty much draw as many cards as you want. And then the fact that it has lifelink, I mean, it would be a powerful commander if it didn't have lifelink. If you can believe it. Apparently the developers wanted to make this a 7 mana 7/7 for, yeah, a 7 mana 7/7, pay 7, draw 7 cards. There was a theme of the number 7 in the initial Innistrad set, and they thought that Griselbrand was way too powerful at 7 mana, and I don't think the extra mana has made much difference. But yeah, it looks like our opponent is just going to be a bad sport and time out now. Yeah, quite unfortunate. But I'll wait and give our opponent the chance to do the right thing and either concede or just pass the turn over to us. But failing that, I will be back with you at the end of the game and we'll go over what happened. Okay, I tried to get our opponent to respond to us by either conceding or passing the turn or something, but they're not doing. I was just racking my brain while I was waiting for them to do something, and I've had this kind of, I won't call it abuse, it's not exactly abuse, is it, but this kind of saltiness before, and it was before I was recording, and I'm sure I was playing my Damia deck, I know that much, and I'm sure that just as I'm reading all this and they're talking about jank and league and jank versus league, all this type of stuff and how terrible your deck is, etc. and so forth, I'm sure it was against a Griselbrand opponent, and I'm just wondering, I obviously can't remember the username of that individual, and I wasn't recording because I didn't have the YouTube channel at the time, but it is part of what's in my mind as to what actually happened there. I think it was a Griselbrand deck, and I'm just wondering if it's the same opponent that I was against. I mean, I think it was 2-3 months ago. I mean, what's the channel now? 2 months old, and this only happened about a month or a few weeks before I started up the channel. I'm pretty sure this is the same opponent that did this against my Damia deck, and because he doesn't deem the Damia deck worthy of league or whatever his whatever hierarchy's going on in his mind, and he was beat by it, by the way. That's why I was getting all this torrent of again, abuse for lack of a better word. Yeah, he was obviously very offended by it and didn't like the fact that he was losing to what he thought was a lesser deck. So yeah, really sad to see that. A bigger person than me would not show this, but I think that nowadays, with everything that goes on in the world, with people hating each other and being horrible to each other on the internet and in real life in some cases, I think people need to start being shamed more often. And I'm not trying to be the arbiter of, change in the world or anything like that, but I won't hide people like this away, because people like this do exist, and I ask that people don't go messaging this individual online or anything like that. Don't even acknowledge them, but just know that if you come against this opponent, it's likely that something like this might happen, especially if they've done it to me before, which I think they might have done. I don't want to cast aspersions if that's not the case, but I think that's right. And yeah, I don't think we should hide people like this. I think we should shame them. So don't go after them. Don't go throwing abuse at them yourself or anything like that. But shame on our opponent for behaving like that. That's not becoming of a professional Commander player such as himself. So hope you enjoyed the deck, Niv Mizzet Parun. Shame that we couldn't see Griselbrand come into play, because it can really do some busted stuff. But I'm actually quite glad that we managed to keep it under control and show what our deck does best, which is counter stuff and draw cards. So hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching. And remember, don't go after him. or I'll come after you.